Good morning. Good morning. Michelle Thompson with Resistant Vision. And have you tried to create more work life balance for yourself and have found yourself to be miserably unsuccessful? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And this is how we're going to lay out how Resistant Vision gets us from one place, what gets us from our current work situation to where we want to be. That's what we're doing today. So stay till the end. At the end, you're going to learn about how we're going to change the internal game because it's not the external circumstances that are necessarily making this really complicated for you. You'll want to hear more about that. So, why is this important? Change is actually really, really difficult for human beings, right? And so you are sitting here trying to make a change of actually creating some sort of work life balance, right? That can take any number of forms. It can be Hmm. It could be from spending more time with your children to actually diving more deeply into a particular area of law so that you can serve your clients better, right? And making sure you carve out the time for that. It could be trying to find a spouse. It could be trying to travel more. It could be any number of things. And then we take a step to do it and then we stop. Or maybe we take 5 steps to do it and then it gets lost, right? It's actually the same challenge that people face when they set New Year's resolutions. You take one step forward and then you forget about it until the following year, right? This is what we're trying to eliminate. This is what we want to shift for you as a lawyer, and this is how we're going to do this at Resistant Vision. So let's get this party started. For when we work with clients, there are 3 parts that clients go through, often concurrently. It's not necessary. So I'm talking about it in a linear way, but it often happens all at the same time, right? First, there's calm. We spend time really calming people's nervous systems. We clarify what are the steps that you're trying to take and how you're going to get there, and who do you need to be to achieve those steps. I'll say more about that shortly. And then commit. Take the steps. Right? Go back and take the steps. Why didn't you take the steps? And not as a berating kind of a thing, but to push people to really expand, like to really get clear about what is in their way. And then we try to clear what's in the way and then go back to it. So calm, clarify, and commit is the general framework that we use at Resistant Vision to shift things forward. Let's start with calm. I had a client who had a horrible boss to work with, and she was trying to complete an assignment and it wasn't getting done. When she showed up on the call, her jaw was hurting and she was and you could just see like she was almost out of her body. She was that anxious. So what did we do? So the first part of calm is called emotional freedom techniques, EFT. You've seen me do videos with that. And so we tapped on it. And we tapped on it until she could feel her jaw loosen. She's like, "Oh, that's much better," right? And by the time we ended the call, she actually had a strategy of moving forward so she could move her work forward. It was such a powerful session that she got rid of the supervisor she was working with and had a new one, and she could finally finish her work. Being able to calm the nervous system is such a key component to actually being able to effectuate the change that you want to be able to do. So that's an example of calm as part of that. If as part of that part of the framework, we also we make sure that people are doing EFT. We make sure that people have pleasure inventories, right? What are the things that you like to do that bring you so much pleasure in life, right? Because we want to be able, like, it's not all about work. It's all about the grind, right? And you actually have more incentive to do the work that you want to do when you know that there's something yummy on the other side of it, right? And if that's a big fat orgasm for you, that's great. But there's so many ways that we can enjoy pleasure. We can have flowers. We can have a sumptuous meal, all sorts of things. And so we want to make sure that's there, that you have your list of go-to practices so you don't have to think about it and you don't have to make decisions about it. The third part of the calm framework is setting up a self-care inventory. And with that, a lot of it is the things that your mother told you to do. Get your sleep, eat properly, and exercise. I think those tend to show up on the inventories because as lawyers, those are the first three things that tend to go, right? If you're working really hard on a client's case, you may not sleep until it's done, especially if you're in the M&A business, right? Um, if you are, if you have a push to get something in a brief in, right, you may decide to forego meals. Unfortunately, I don't have that problem. um, I'll more likely eat more, but you get the point, right? You want to make sure that you are doing those basic things to fuel you to keep going. And so that's so the EFT, self-care inventory, and a pleasure inventory are all part of the Calm rubric of what we do and how we get clients to move along. The next, not the next, the second thing that we also make sure that we do with clients is to clarify. What do we mean by that? Again, if what you want is work-life balance, what's working and what's not. So first of all, that's where we start. Like what's going well and what's not, right? We want to get really, really clear about that. When and and as we figure out what's not working, we can start to define what is, because we don't want to work in the negative, right? To not have a thing. We want to work towards a thing, a concrete thing, right? So maybe it is I want to spend more time with my daughter. Maybe it's like, can I just go on a date? Maybe it is I just want to learn how to do a cooking class, right? I don't know what, like there are any number of things, and we let the client define that. But this is where we actually is this is actually really, really important for getting that clarity of what you want to do. Someone just wrote EFT is best for stress. Absolutely. It is a stress buster, and it keeps things going, right? So with that said, when we're clarifying, the first thing that we do is we actually go through the core productivity system that we have here at Resistant Vision. And the core productivity system is it is, first of all, it's giving you tools, a set of tools, right, to do a time audit, figure out how you're spending your time, right? Because if it's not aligned with what you want to do, you want that data, right? After we do that, we actually go ahead and start to do the planning so that you can see the goal and make sure that's incorporated in your day, and you're actually able to move along on time, use your time to move that forward, right? So it's a series. It's like there are like 7 steps to make that happen, but that's the core of the core productivity system. The last part of it is, who do you need to be to make it happen? As lawyers, we're told that we need to be people who are willing to throw ourselves under the bus, that we're going to do anything at any time for any client that comes our way. And that actually really has it has a deleterious effect on us, right? But if that's who you think you need to be, then you knock yourself out and you probably don't need me, right? But if that's not how you want to be, if you know that you can deliver for clients better without being on the constant grind, then we're going to actually help you figure out, like, what does that look like? What does your practice look like so you're not doing that? So you can actually commit to the things that you're clarifying, right? So the core productivity system is a part of it. Then we set goals. Like, what is it that you want to do, right? And like I said, maybe it's I want to learn more about this area of law because I'm seeing like we're seeing two parts of the law come together in a way that would actually serve my clients well if I knew both of them, right? Maybe it is I just need to go to Bali for a month. I can't do it under these circumstances, so let's get you to Bali, right? Like, we're going to clarify that goal, right? And as we get the bigger goal, then we're going to actually break out what are the little steps that you need to do to get there, right? So that was a lot, but let me give you a client example. I did a planning session with somebody in January, and my planning packages come with 3 follow-up sessions and a juicy EFT session so we can move the stress out of the way. And what we did was we actually sat down and said, okay, so you're trying to meet this number of billable hours so you can get your bonus in 2024. We want people to get their bonuses. We're not anti-bonus, right? And what we did was we came up with a multifaceted plan, a plan that included public speaking, it included networking, it included making sure that she had help, more help at the office, more administrative help at the office, so she could get things off of her plate, so she could do the work that was necessary to build her book of business. By the time we finished the session, she hugged me 3 times. It was the sweetest thing. It's actually the first time I've worked in person with a client, but when you have that level of clarity, it's just like anything is possible, right? You're not just when it's not just I'm trying to get here, but I do this step and this step and this step and this step, what a difference it makes, right? And that's what happened with her. And so that's why clarity is so important. It makes the work lighter. It doesn't mean it's easy work. I spend a lot of time for myself clarifying what I'm doing. It doesn't mean it's easy. It just means that but it actually means that I know what I'm going to do when I sit my butt down in the chair. The final part of the framework for resistant vision is to commit to the work, commit to your goals, and to commit to the steps that you're taking. And so this is this is interesting, and I don't mean this in a bad way. This is where the wheels come off the bus, because a client will say, yeah, I can do that. And it doesn't work, right? And it's not, there's nothing wrong with them, but we have to figure but this is where, last week I did a video on resistance. This is where the resistance shows up. This is where the resistance pops in and you're like, I don't know why I didn't do it, or wow, the kids, or the this or the that, right? And they tend to be external causes. And so when we're working with a client to commit, we actually sit down and go, okay, so last week we said we were going to do X, Y, and Z. What got in the way? And we hear it. And this is where calm and commit often do a dance with each other. It's like, okay, I hear it could be, I hear a belief, a foundational belief that I can't do this, or I hear belief that if I'm going to do this, I'm never going to sleep again, or whatever. And that's where we actually can go back to EFT and do the calm that people need. So they can actually go, okay, I can face this and I can do this. And what's beautiful about EFT is it kind of takes that out of your brain and you can move on it. And it's like it never even happened, right? Calm, and as we're trying to get people to commit to what they're doing, right, we'll also go back to the inventories that they created, right? Like, so make sure that you are tucked in your bed at 10 o'clock at night so you can be in good shape, so you can keep moving forward the work you want to do for your client in the morning, and you can still move towards your goal, be it partner or whatever. And that's the commit part. We just go back and forth, and maybe the steps are wrong and we just change the steps. That's fine. Maybe the timeline's wrong. It's all doable. We're flexible. We're working with the client. So that today is an earful, but about how we make that transformation, right? Much of the transformation is internal, right? And that's what both the core productivity system and committing to take the steps really show that. Like, you don't do the next steps because there's a block, there's a resistance within, right? And that's what's got to shift to make that happen. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions about this, if you want to know more about EFT, please stay on the channel. I have other videos that are about EFT. If this was useful, or this would be useful for somebody please share it. Please follow our page at resistant_vision at YouTube, on YouTube. We'd be happy to have you. And yeah, I think that's it. So thank you for sticking around, and take care. I'll see you next week.